Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining. Let's get started today, where we're going to talk today about vaccines in dogs and what vaccines should my dog get, what vaccines are available, who says what vaccines we should get, and what are all of these diseases that we're getting vaccinated for anyway. Never thought about that one, did you? Well, let's get started and we'll roll the intro and talk about AAHA. So guys, who decides what vaccines your dog should get? The American Animal Hospital Association, otherwise known as AAHA, is our primary organization that tells us, hey, these are the vaccines we consider core and you probably should too. So AAHA has been focused on promoting high quality standards for the rapidly evolving sector of small animal medicine private practice through accreditation and other initiatives. The standards were developed to raise the bar of veterinary excellence and have undergone numerous updates throughout the years, always reflecting current industry standards. AAHA is the leading organization that promotes modern and high-quality veterinary care, and they happen to be one of the best equipped organizations to give recommendations on vaccines. So let's get started. Vaccines. What are the core vaccines recommended by AAHA? The first one is rabies. Rabies is almost more for public health than it is for the health of your animal. And the reason for this is that rabies has been a scourge across a lot of different countries for a lot of different time, and is one of those diseases that once a human gets it, there is no cure. And so there are a lot of laws regarding rabies vaccination, dog bites, rabies management, and typically the first vaccine of the rabies series will last for 1 year without a booster, and that next vaccine 1 year later is going to usually be a 3-year vaccine, depending on the municipality that you live in, as some cities or states may have different requirements as to who can give rabies, who can get rabies, the age at which they have to be, what the requirements are for how long a rabies vaccine is considered good for, and that's very different across the country. So talk to your veterinarian or take a look at your city or state laws. The next vaccine is what we call the DAPP vaccine, and this may include parainfluenza. So this is also known as the canine distemper combo vaccine, and it has several different things. It has the canine distemper virus, Parvo virus, canine adenovirus 2, and sometimes it has the modified live parainfluenza virus. So let's get started with canine distemper. What is canine distemper? Why do we vaccinate against it? In puppies, canine distemper has a very high mortality rate, meaning that a lot of dogs will die if they do get this disease. It's a virus that is in the same family as the measles, mumps, and bronchitis in people, and it can cause a wide variety of clinical signs, everything from hyperkeratosis of the feet to sneezing, vomiting, neurologic signs. It is a very wide-ranging disease with a variety of symptoms, and it's one that can be tough to diagnose, but it is highly contagious. The next virus I wanted to talk about is Parvo virus. It's a highly contagious virus, extremely contagious virus, with up to 90% mortality in untreated puppies. And in puppies, it causes the most severe disease, where it can cause such severe GI signs, where they're vomiting and having diarrhea, that they absorb almost zero nutrients, and sometimes will actually leak nutrients out of their intestinal tract. And without treatment, this can be extremely quick and extremely dangerous to puppies. The next virus is canine adenovirus 2, otherwise known as the canine hepatitis virus. We really only vaccinate against CAV2, but it does cross-protect against type 1. And often this disease will cause respiratory and GI symptoms, including hepatitis and sneezing, vomiting. It can also affect the reproductive tract of dogs as well. The other virus that sometimes is included in this combo vaccine is called the parainfluenza virus. And not all combo viruses or not all combo vaccines are going to contain this virus. But it's a very contagious virus that can cause tracheobronchitis. It doesn't cause severe disease, but being that it is as contagious as it is, that's why we choose to vaccinate against this sometimes. The rest of these are going to be what we call non-core vaccines. And a non-core vaccine basically just means that these vaccines are either risk-based or depending on where you live. And most or all, a lot of dogs should get some of these. A lot of dogs should get none of these. It really can be variable. And nobody says, yes, all dogs should get these vaccines like we do with the core vaccines of rabies and the distemper combo. The first one is Bordetella, or Kennel Cough, and this contains Bordetella bronchoseptica, and in some cases it contains the same parainfluenza virus that the previous one did. It can cause mild to moderate respiratory disease and may be required by dog groomers, pet boarding facilities, dog parks, and sometimes even places like apartments. There's 3 different forms. There's a modified live that is oral, there's a modified live that's for intranasal administration, and then there's one that's injectable. And of these, I would usually pick either the oral or the intranasal because you don't need a booster, and it provides better mucosal immunity than the injected version does. The next one is Leptospira, or Leptospirosis. This is a disease that is picked up by direct contact from urine of an infected animal, such as a mouse, deer, dog, cat, possum, skunk, wolf, etc. You name it, a mammal can get it. This can also be transmitted through contact with contaminated urine or soil or water. So a lot of times what I'll use as my determining factor is, could your dog step on a blade of grass that had the urine from a mouse on it? And if the answer is yes, I usually will recommend this vaccine because we live in a part of the country that is a lot higher incidence than elsewhere. This disease can cause severe damage to the liver, kidneys, and it's a very complicated disease to vaccinate for, and I'm going to just go into that in another video, not today. The vaccine isn't perfect, but it is a good vaccine. It can really help prevent some disease in your dogs. And the main reason that I will recommend vaccinating for lepto is that it's a zoonotic disease. And even if your dog gets it and doesn't ever show clinical signs or mild clinical signs, you or your child could pick it up from the dog. And you could get some severe clinical signs. You have kidney failure, liver failure, and it can affect other parts of the body as well. So this is one of those that I do recommend for that reason in particular, especially if your dog is at any risk of developing it. So if you go on walks in the woods, if your dog goes out in the lawn where there's, potential for wild animal urine. And so I do typically recommend this one. The Lyme vaccine, or Borrelia burgdorferi, is a risk-based vaccine depending on where you live, your pet's breed, lifestyle. It does have a higher vaccine reaction rate than our other vaccines, but it's also very protective in endemic areas of the world. So this is really a risk-based vaccine. I don't recommend it one way or the other to the average person, but I do typically recommend this to my patients because where we are, we have a very high prevalence of Lyme disease. And if you want to know more about it, you can look at the card up above and click on that video where I go in depth into Lyme disease. The next vaccine is canine influenza. And canine influenza can be a very similar influenza virus to what people get, and often it is a result of the human variant basically changing to a way to where it is adapted to dogs. It's not common. Typically, we'll see an outbreak every 5 to 10 years, and really, we don't recommend this vaccine very often in my clinic because it's such a low risk. Dogs don't get it very often. It's usually going to be if there's an outbreak in your area where it will be highly recommended, or some municipalities may require it, and also there could be some shows or events in which this vaccine is required. The main reason that these places would require it is that dogs could potentially, or there's a theoretical risk of them transmitting influenza to people. The last vaccine that I'm going to talk about is a little bit of a strange one, and it's called the Crotalus atrox vaccine. And what Crotalus atrox is actually the diamondback rattlesnake. And so this is a vaccine that is intended to help increase the amount of time you have from your dog being bitten by a rattlesnake, particularly the diamondback, and how long you have to get to a veterinarian for proper care and treatment. This is not a vaccine that is recommended across the country, and unless you're in a very high-risk area, it's usually not recommended. However, some places like the desert Southwest, where this is a lot more common, your veterinarian may recommend doing this. It's just not very common in my part of the world. I live in the Midwest, where vaccines against rattlesnakes are pretty much pointless, and because of the vaccine reaction rate in this type of vaccine, it's not one that I would recommend unless you have some risk factors, in which case, talk to your veterinarian about it. So that's going to wrap up vaccines today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining. If you guys have questions about these vaccines, leave them down below. I will leave some links in the description that will talk about some particular risk factors about vaccines and some really good resources for you to go and read, either from AAHA or the VCA hospitals and a couple others. So if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe. I'm going to start a video series where we talk about a lot of these different diseases a lot more in depth, risk factors, what they are, what causes them, how they're transmitted, all of those really interesting things. And I hope you guys will stick around and watch those as soon as they are filmed and uploaded. So have a good rest of your day, guys, and happy 4th of July.